All right, everybody, welcome to today's first recording. I have with us today Sergeant Travis Williams. Sergeant Williams, I appreciate your time in talking to Ohio Connections Academy about the Marine Corps.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
So really, you have a recruit. They're going to come on into your recruitment station, and the first thing they're going to say is, "Why do I want to join the Marine Corps?" So, what are you going to tell them? Why might a student want to join the Marine Corps?
Awesome. Well, that's a really good question, Gene. And first of all, we call our guys coming in, we call them applicants. Recruits are those going down to boot camp. But so when an applicant comes in, first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go through, some basic medical questions to make sure that they're medically qualified, because don't want to get anyone's hopes up if they're not qualified. Then I'm going to give them a screener for the ASVAB. And ASVAB is like our job placement test. And I'll go more into that later down the road. But so once they're cleared for that, I'm then going to, one thing we do in the Marines versus a lot of the other branches is I'm going to actually interview you and actually talk about your goals and things like that. And we're going to go over like a lot of things that why you as the applicant might be interested in joining. And but that's what's going to look like when you first walk in. And in regards to why you might think about the Marine Corps, well, one of the things that define, or one of the many things that defines us, is that we offer technical jobs, like as well as combat training along the same lines. So my job, for instance, is I work with computers, technology, servers, but I'm also combat trained. That wouldn't happen in another branch. So that was one of the things that drew me to it. But another thing that might make you want to look into careers is it'll give you that leadership experience. We actually have a high emphasis on it in the Marine Corps. So obviously, like I start training applicants before you go to boot camp on leadership and abilities like that. But a big push we have for the Marine Corps as a whole is leadership. We believe that from the very start, everyone is a leader and will train you as such. And that's one of the things, as well as, of course, discipline and physical fitness, that'll have you stand out as a Marine versus other branches and, of course, civilian counterparts.
So you brought up that you are a computer specialist in your career field. What other jobs does the Marine Corps have to offer that would basically apply to everyday life and, as you get out or possibly thinking about getting out?
Yeah, correct. So one of the things that I do as a recruiter is a lot of times people do think I'm, acting as a recruiter for people to have full careers, full 20 something years in the Marine Corps, but that's actually not what I'm recruiting for. I'm recruiting for people to become Marines for 4 years and then, and essentially become good citizens to apply those skill sets to their everyday life. If they want to stay in, then, by all means, that's their form. But as a recruiter, I'm recruiting you to be a Marine for 4 years. So the idea is to prepare yourself for the future. So, of course, we do have our infantry. We actually have the best infantry in the armed forces and in the world, of course. But that's only about 25%, I would say, of the Marine Corps. A good 75% is all jobs that apply to that. And we actually aren't just ground warfare. We have, we're actually over sea and air. So we have aviation jobs. So that's your, obviously working on planes, your aviation mechanics. You got your firefighters on the airfield. You got your air traffic controllers, meteorologists, anything that has to do with aviation. So you got that side of the job house. That's going to be your high level jobs. So that ASVAB that I talked about earlier, so that's your placement test, but it actually has a breakdown of scores. And so in the Marine Corps, you can choose your job, but it's based upon what you qualify for on the ASVAB. So depending on the job field is how the line scores are broken down. So just because you got a high score on the ASVAB doesn't necessarily mean you'll qualify for certain jobs. So we got our aviation jobs, which I talked about. We also, of course, got our ground side jobs. So you got your infantry, you got your special ops, but you also got your logistics, you got your communications, which is the field that I'm part of, which is working with satellites, computers, servers, networks, radios, a wide antennas, like a wide range of electronics and various skill sets like that. Like in my field specifically, when you get out of the Marine Corps, you're going to be, working for. I mean, you can pretty much work for any IT company, but even on the more high level, you can work for as like a server admin, network admin for Amazon, Microsoft, things like that. I actually got buddies that are out right now that are working for Microsoft, making six figures, things like that. Because you're also, with any job, you're also going to get the certifications that apply to that. So like for me, I'm getting my network certifications, my security certifications, which the Marine Corps, of course, pays for. So anything that a company's looking for, that's what you're going to get in your job field. If you're working with trucks, you're getting your mechanics skill, you're getting your diesel mechanics, you're getting your CDLs, your various qualifications for that. We also got like our intel jobs, of course. So you got your linguists, got your analysts, various things like that that are going to be working hand in hand with the CIA, FBI. Like you're going to have top secret clearances. And of course, we got various, boat repairmen. We got working on our vehicles. We got our welders. We got our engineers who build bridges, build airfields, read blueprints, like give you some skill sets for that. So it's like elements of construction, but goes way beyond that, even demolitions and things like that. We actually have a wide range of jobs, but I would say that's a pretty decent, good summary. Any specific questions on that?
No, but I'm sure students will, because I mean, a lot of those job fields, it's definitely, I can see a lot of application. So whatever a student's thinking about for their future, they may be like, man, didn't know I can maybe get it in the Marines, which is possibly a good avenue for them to take.
Exactly.
So one thing that I know a lot of students are kind of wondering about that'll kind of connect to that question, though, is it possible to choose their job before going to basic training, their specific job?
Correct. So I kind of touched on that a little bit, but it is possible to choose the job. So main thing, you have to medically qualify for it. And by that, I mean, if you have issues with eyesight, you're not being a truck driver, you're not being anything working with vehicles. You also have to, and then sometimes you can be too short or too tall for a job as well. And also a big one is your ASVAB scores have to align with the job. And like I said, it's not just your overall score, it is your line scores that apply. So you got your mechanic score, your general technician score, your electronic score, etc. And and these will break down to be what it is. So obviously, if you are working with electronics, like in my field, you have to have a high electronic score. If you're working with mechanics, like maybe an aviation mechanic, you have to have a high mechanic score for that, etc. So yes, you can.
Okay, and that's
but ... But you have to qualify.
right, right, and that's because I know in some, like for example, when I was in the Air Force, my job wasn't chosen until I went into basic, and they said, "Oh, hey, by the way, you're 3/4 through basic. This is what you're going to do." So in the Marine Corps, is that chosen before you even leave? Then
job contracts. And so you will have so we have what's called the pool program. So the pool program, and that's actually what's behind me over here. It's our pool board. I don't know if you kind of see it, but they're pictures of individuals that have enlisted in this area. So they've enlisted, but they're training with us, getting ready to go to boot camp. They're not considered recruits yet. They're considered poolees. So during that time, the advantage to it is, one, you're getting mentally and physically prepared for boot camp because it is the hardest boot camp out of all the branches. But two, it is so that way you can figure out talk about what jobs you'd be interested in, and then what you qualify for, and of course, choose your job before you go to boot camp. And that's actually a big important thing to note of us versus several of the other branches, is that when you enlist as a Marine, and then you choose your job later. So you don't have to worry about, so you can like think about what job you want. You can talk about it. When you enlist in like, let's say it's not necessarily wrong, it's just different. When you enlist in like, let's say the Army, you go up to MEPS, or you go up to the medical processing station and you enlist with your job contract. With us, you enlist as a Marine, then you choose your job later and sign your job later. So you're already, dealing with a lot of stress, enlisting in the first place. So we let you get that out of the way. Then, when everything kind of calms down, you then are able to choose your job, talk about what would be best for you, talk about with your family, figuring out, what would help you be successful. Because ultimately that's what I am. I'm basically like an overglorified job counselor. I'm going to advise you on what would make you successful based on yourself. So that's what enables you to then choose your job field after that.
Excellent. So I know a lot of students use the military for kind of a springboard into college because, as we all know, college is expensive. What type of benefit?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually probably one of the best recruiters to talk to about this, because I actually have used my college benefits and, in fact, have my bachelor's degree in IT, and I got it while I'm in. So that's often a big question I get. So most people recognize the GI Bill, which you get after you get out of at least 4 years or more, but at least 4 years, one contract, you get access to the GI Bill where you can just go to school free of charge. So everyone gets that, but that is only used after school. So a lot of question is, well, do I have to wait till after my Marine Corps career to access schooling? And the answer is no, you don't. In fact, it's even better than that. It's a separate program from the GI Bill. It's called the Tuition Assistance Program, or the TA program. So this is what I used to get my bachelor's degree. What you do is you go to the education center on base, and you're able to take either local college classes or online college classes while you're getting your work, while you're getting your certifications, while you're getting your experience and getting paid and everything, maybe traveling around the world, that kind of thing. You're also taking college classes, knocking out your bachelor's or associates, depending on what you want to do. And you can actually even use this for a trade school. And then by the time you get out, so you can use this program the whole time you're in. By the time you get out, your GI Bill is untouched. It's a complete separate program. So you can use that. So like me, for instance, let's use that as an example. I use my tuition assistance to get my bachelor's degree. Now when I get out, I can use my GI Bill to get my master's, etc. Or like, let's say I stay in 8 years, 10 years, whatever, and that whole time I'm using my TA, I could potentially get my master's during that and then get my doctorate when I get out that GI Bill. You can mix and match the programs. That's what's nice about it, right? And it actually even gets better. So like when I first came in, you had to wait 2 years before you could use the tuition assistance program, before you could start taking college classes. Well, our head general, the commandant, he realized that like this wasn't working out for people. So he actually a few years ago passed an order that now you can start using your tuition assistance as soon as you're done with the training period. So your first 4 years, so that's like after boot camp and after combat training and everything. So your first 4 years now, you can potentially get your bachelor's degree within, like paid for within that first 4 years and not having to do a second enlistment to use that or continue on with your GI Bill. Now, and I don't know about the other branches, but I know the Navy hasn't quite caught up to us in that. And for them, it still is 2 years before you can start using your tuition assistance. So that covers how you get it paid for, but it actually, as an extra bonus, while you're going through boot camp, combat training, your technical school, as you're going through your training, you actually generate a transcript and you actually get transferable credits just for getting trained, for getting paid, and for getting your experience. You're also on top of that getting college credits. So you're already several semesters in by the time you even start using your tuition assistance program. And one that's really nice, but the reason why I bring this up is because I know a lot of students ask me, so Sergeant Williams, my buddy, he's going straight into college. Let's say I start using my college benefits now because of boot camp and such, I'm behind. Well, the fact is you're actually not. In fact, you're getting those college generated just by getting paid and getting trained. So basically you're easily going to be able to attain your associates, your bachelor's, while you're within your first enlistment. It's very possible. Like, that's what I did. So does that answer the question?
It does. I appreciate it. Speaking, you kind of mentioned getting paid, and getting college credit. While we don't always do things for pay, a lot of people want to know how much they're paid. So what's the pay like in the Marine? Well, I would assume it's like almost
Yeah,
like
it
this.
actually is. Yeah, so we get so for whatever reason, a lot of people hear that there's different pay per branch, and like the Air Force gets paid the most or something like that. I don't know where that came from, because that's actually, well, I mean, you were in the Air Force, so you should know, but like that's actually really untrue. It's actually what's called the DoD pay grade. So everyone gets paid the same across the board. Now, so the starting pay nowadays, probably a little bit different than when you were in, at E1 is about $1,700 a month. And you can actually just look these up, like DoD pay grades online, and it's very easily out there, right? And so, but that's just, the nice part is that's just your base pay. So in addition, you're going, like, that's money that's going straight in your pocket, because you're getting your health insurance, you're getting your housing, you're getting your food, you're getting everything taken care of. So unlike most people, you're not getting, like, taking money out of that. All that money is going straight in your pocket. That's yours, and everything is on top of that. And then, of course, when you're overseas, you get overseas pay. If you speak a second language, you get extra pay for that. Like when you move, you get extra pay for that. So there's a lot of money that goes on top of it, for that extra pay, including things when you do like extra jobs. Like me, for instance, recruiting is not my job all the time. But while I'm doing my few years as a recruiter, I actually get paid a little extra money as part of my salary to do that. Same thing with drill instructors. Same thing with security guards or embassy security guards, and things like that. We call them SDAs, so they're like secondary jobs. But there's also other ways too that you can get extra pay, like if you're like when you get extra training for various things, especially when you're doing like special ops like MARSOC or Force Recon. But we do obviously have an emphasis on, it's not just all about the pay. It's, the extra skill sets you get are really what help you out, not to mention college and experience, and of course, like your skill sets and training on top of that. So, but yes, I do agree the pay is nice. The Marine Corps definitely takes care of you, and very, very comfortable living.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, I know this is different for all branches, but if you could talk a little bit about, because obviously, if one goes up in rank, they get more pay. But how?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it works differently per branch. So a lot of the other branches, and I believe the Air Force is like this, you take a test to increase, correct? So the Marine Corps doesn't do that. We're based off of our fitness tests, our shooting scores, and our combat fitness test. So those generate scores, but then you also get what's called pro cons. So these are generated by your leaders for the things that you do, whether it be your leadership skill sets, being good at your job, that sort of thing. So up to sergeant, that's what it is. And then when you get above that, so E6 staff sergeant and up, and then you go before a board, and then it's like rated on whether you like deserve the rank or not. And then of course you have to be in a certain amount of time for everything to apply to you, but it's based on your skill sets and your leadership capabilities as a Marine and how your leaders rate you. It's not based on like who did things the most or who took a test or however that may be. It's based on your skill sets. Does that make sense?
It does. It's
Yeah,
there are some similarities and there's some definitely differences in the Air Force, at least when I was in.
yeah.
So, um, yeah, I know you're going to get this question about, and everybody's just saying, Mr. Stanford, ask this question because we want to know, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, so I get this question all the time because obviously that's like one of the big next steps, or it's the first step really towards actually becoming a Marine. So I'll just generally summarize. Basically, we do have the hardest boot camp still. It hasn't changed that much since for many years, although a lot of the other branches have changed. We don't really like change. But so basically you go to boot camp at Parris Island on this side of the Mississippi. So in Ohio, you go to Parris Island, and that is in South Carolina. So it is an island to itself. All the training takes place on the island. You go through a gate and it says, "We train Marines." You go through this gate and you're on a bus, and then that's when it all starts. You're getting all your gear. You're getting, that's oftentimes when people are like, "Oh, what have I done?" But like, it cools down after that once you get used to it. But so it actually is 3 months long, and so it's the longest boot camp too. And it contains, you're obviously going to do a lot of physical training, but it's mostly mental training to get you faster, stronger, and better, and work as a team. And of course, that's where you start building that foundation to gaining your leadership skill sets. And it's definitely going to break you out of your shell if you have a shell. And that's what starts to give that confidence that people see in Marines. It starts to build you up to becoming that Marine. And so during this time, you're going to be doing drill. You're going to be learning a lot of history of the Marine Corps. You're going to be learning your uniforms. You're, of course, going to be issued your uniforms, and even the one you see me wearing today, the blues coat. And you're going to be, of course, doing your fitness test. There's a lot of hiking, and you're going to be trained on the rifle range. So if you've never fired a rifle before, don't worry. We actually prefer people who haven't been trained, so that way we can train you from scratch. And those tend to actually do the best on the rifle qualification because you don't have bad habits to break. So if you never fired a rifle before, now's your time. You get an M16. We're also shifting to M4s, but I believe in boot camp we're still using M16s. And you're going to be shooting on that up to 500 yards. You're going to qualify on that. You're also going to do a swim qualification. It's not like some like advanced swim like you would see in the Navy SEALs or the Force Recon guys do. That would come later if you want to do it. But this is just basic qualification. They'll ensure that you are able to swim and survive. So float basically. So you will also get trained in this as well in a specific type of Marine Corps swim. So even if you've never swam before, don't worry. We also train you in that. And of course, we got the gas chamber, which of course no one's done you've been gassed before, but it's just your standard tear gas. But of course, you get a gas mask. You get trained on that. I mean, you can look up YouTube videos on that, but I feel like in the YouTube videos they're kind of dramatic. It's not actually that bad. But yeah, feel free to come into my office if you have questions about it. I can give you a detailed story of it. But then of course you're also going to have various ceremonies, various drills, and like you're gonna go off a rappel tower, and then there's gonna be a lot of running and hiking, and it finally builds up to what we call the crucible, which is like the culmination of your training. And like if you looked up what it is right now, it seems really hard, but you got to keep in mind you're building up to it for 3 months. So I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's very doable when you've been training for it for 3 months straight. That's all I'll say. But if you are worried about boot camp as a student, like I said before, that's why we have the pool program, and we're the only branch that does this. And part of it is because we are the hardest boot camp. So we actually, during our pool program, we prepare you to get stronger mentally and physically, so you're guaranteed to be able to pass boot camp. The only thing that can keep you from passing boot camp is if you tell yourself to quit. and obviously we don't want quitters in the Marine Corps. So if you push yourself, and we like to say that it's about 30% physical and 70% mental. So if you tell yourself you can do it, if you push yourself, and I mean, I'd really say that applies to anything in life, but if you push yourself, you'll be able to do it. It's designed to pass. Sometimes it might not seem like it, but it is designed to pass it. I mean, if I did it, I feel like anyone could do it, honestly. But after that, then you would go to combat training in North Carolina. So if you're on the technical side of things like myself, you're doing that for about a month. It's just a crash course in technical things. So you're going to be doing your room clearing. You're going to be learning more about your weapon systems, throwing grenades, shooting machine guns, doing things like that. It's a thing that only the Marine Corps has. We're the only ones that have a combat training for just from like your cooks, desk jockeys, and like technical guys like myself. We're the only branch that does this, where you'll get trained on a machine gun and grenades and things like that. So like, that's definitely, if you're interested, you want to go on the technical side of things, but you also want to be combat trained, the Marine Corps is for you. Like that's one of the big things for it. And of course, if you're an infantry guy, then you go to a more extended version of it, but you don't go to technical school afterwards. You go directly to the fleet or your first duty station. So like if you're a technical side like me, you would then go to your technical school, whatever that job may be, after your combat training. And that's your general training course for the Marines.
Excellent, thank you. So obviously, our day and age, where Marine Corps, Air Force, all the branches are deploying. This can also kind of vary a little bit depending on, obviously, the Navy is usually on a boat. Can you explain a little bit about possibly like what might a Marine Corps deployment look like? And
exactly. Yeah. So obviously a deployment's a generic term. I mean, it can be anything from like similar to an Air Force's deployment where you're just on a base working to be similar to a Navy deployment where you are on a boat, and it's what we call a MEU, where you go around and you help, you train and you go to different ports, and you even do like efforts where you like help hurricane victims, like build houses, things like that. That's where a lot of our engineers come in handy. Or it could be a combat deployment, although we don't have very many combat deployments right now as a nation in general. But it can even be anything like technically we consider a deployment being like stationed in like Japan or Korea, for instance. And like my first duty station, I was stationed in Japan. But it's not like when you're stationed overseas, it's not like you're like locked into base like it's the Vietnam War era. Like you're just living and working in that country. You can go around free as you will when you're off time, when you're off on the weekends, that sort of thing. And every so often you're going to go on like exercises, or what we call training exercises, where you're going to be doing your job out in the field, things like that. But yeah, so we have, because the way we are as the Marine Corps, that we're a mix of air, sea, and land, we have similar deployments to like depending on, so like me, for instance, I've only ever been with the air wing or on the ground side. So I've only ever been working on an airfield or out in the field with the infantry. I've never been on a boat, but there's guys in my office that are same job field as me, same Marine Corps, and they've been deployed on ship, doing different things like that, working with the Navy. So your deployment can be completely different based on what you do. And that's one of the nice things about the Marine Corps, is that because we do so much variations of things, you have a lot more opportunities and a lot more advantages and experiences than you might in another branch. I feel like that was a good summary.
That's awesome. Thanks. I appreciate it. So obviously, Marine Corps, almost with all branches, there's. I was talking to you before, and as soon as somebody thinks I'm in the Air Force, they're like, "Hey, what did you fly?" So there's definitely misconceptions about every branch. So what are a few?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so main misconception, everyone thinks because of the way the movies are that we're like some special ops infantry Rambo guys. But that, like I said, that's only about 20% of us are combat arms. The other 70% are technical jobs like myself. Now, that being said, like I said, you do get combat trained in the Marine Corps no matter what your job is. So I guess I can kind of see where the stereotype came from. But that just means you now know how to defend your friends and family. It doesn't mean that you're charging in on the front lines, as they say, knocking down doors. Everyone is some Rambo type. Like that's not true at all. And I would say the follow up with that, the second misconception is that we don't have technical jobs, like on the flip side, which, like I said, I've already covered that. We do. Actually, we have a lot. We have a lot of intel jobs. We have a lot of aviation type jobs that relate to that. We have a lot of electronics jobs. We have everything from, and all your HVAC, your welding, everything like that. The only thing we don't have is we do not have religious jobs like chaplains, things like that, or chaplain's assistants, and we do not have medical jobs. So your medics, your dental, anything like that, the Navy does that for us. So if you are interested in, now we do have obviously ways like that you can obviously use your degree or you can use your college to get that. So if you want to be a Marine, want to do something medical, there are actually, because of the way the stress and the structure of the Marine Corps actually works really well hand in hand to prepare you for the medical field. My twin brother actually is a surgeon in Detroit, and he says he works alongside a lot of prior Marines, and the reason why they go to the medical field is because the structure of the Marine Corps, the skill sets of the Marine Corps, and the way to handle stress and leadership prepares them to be a surgeon or some high level in medicine. And then, of course, the Marine Corps pays for their college, and we even have a special program to get your medical degree through the Marine Corps. So just because you're interested in medicine for your future, that shouldn't eliminate you from wanting to be a Marine, because it actually will help you. But we don't actually have medical jobs in the Marine Corps. I would say those are the main two misconceptions, but and then I would say probably another third one would be that we just take anyone. Like we don't. We actually are the most highly restrictive to get in. We have restrictions on tattoos, restrictions on felonies, restriction on different things, or one of the most restrictive, I should say. And part of that is because we're the smallest branch, so we're able to do that.
Excellent. So last question for you. You now have your applicant who comes in, wants to get in your pool. So what's a piece of advice that you have someone entering any specific branch that is thinking about the military?
Yeah, so for any branch, especially at this day and age, you guys are looking towards the future. So what I encourage you to do is look at every branch. Don't just like I've gone over misconceptions with the Marine Corps, there's obviously misconceptions to every branch. So I encourage you to look at any branch, and there's a branch for everyone. And some branches aren't for you. So look at every branch and determine what's the best for yourself based on what they say, and compare what other recruiters say. Because there's obviously bias, there's things like that. Obviously I'm biased for the Marine Corps. So if you're dead set on being a Marine, or dead set on being in the Air Force, whatever, then go to them. That's fine. But if you're unsure of what branch you want, I encourage you to look at all branches. Everything has something different to offer. And so as to Marine Corps specifically, keep in mind we're the most physically restrictive. So if you are, maybe not in as great a shape as you want to be, maybe look up some of our workouts, things like that, before you talk to a recruiter to make sure that you're within our weight standards, within our physical standards, things like that. Not to say that like if you're out of those standards, that if you're dead set on joining, like I will help you get to those standards. But I recommend that you actually be aware of those standards first, and maybe start preparing physically for it, that sort of thing. And also, I mean, goes without saying, but stay away from drugs, including weed. I mean, that applies to anything. It is a big deal, and I see a lot of guys that want to join, but then they can't, they can't stop smoking, or they can't stop with those things, and it is a big deal. It does change lives, so stay away from drugs. I mean, feel like that shouldn't be said, but I see it a lot, so that's what I'm saying. So it clearly doesn't need to be said. And another main thing too, like I as a recruiter prefer when people come in with their parents, so that way the parents can ask me questions too. Like even if you're 18, come in with your parents. Like talk to a recruiter with your parents, because it eliminates also like the telephone game where you come in, talk to me, then you have to transfer to your parent and you say something and then it sounds bad, and it sounds completely wrong or whatever. And I know every other recruiter would say this too, or any recruiter worth his salt would say this, like come in with your parents so they can ask you. It's way better, and oftentimes it relieves a lot of stress and things like that. So and it will help you out too as someone that's looking to join the military, so you don't have to regurgitate all the information, and you don't have to worry about your mom saying no, you're not joining, that kind of thing. Because I'm, as a recruiter, trained with these answers and with these questions, so they don't sound scary to your mom, because sometimes the Marine Corps can sound scary to parents. And then my last piece of advice, I would say, come in bringing like a piece of paper with your questions. Some will be answered in the interview, but some might not be. There might be some question that's specific to you that you want answered. Maybe you're looking for a specific job. Maybe you're working for a specific, country, location, what have you. Ask that question. Don't be afraid to ask that question. And then, of course, main thing too, recruiters aren't mean. So, feel free to talk to them, ask them questions. Same thing with myself. Like it's okay to open up to me. Like if I'm asking you something, you say, yeah, sure, whatever. Like I want to know who you are. Like I don't it like and don't give me the answers that I want to hear. Like I want to know whether you'd be good for this or not. Like if you don't want to join the Marines, don't tell a recruiter you want to join the Marines. Or if you don't want to join the Air Force, don't tell a recruiter you don't want to join the Air Force. Like it's okay to be honest with recruiters. Like that's our job to talk. We talk to everyone. We get paid salary. So it's fine if you don't want to join. Like you're not wasting our time. That's just part of our job.
Excellent. I appreciate Sergeant Williams.
Um, I mean, I feel like we definitely covered a good summary of things, but so I'm located at the Eastgate recruiting station. Um, and I know Mr. Stanford will send out my information later if anyone requests it. But yeah, I hope that some of you stop by my office. And the cool part is the pool program I mentioned. You guys don't have to actually be enlisted to do it. You can actually come. We have PT every Tuesday and Thursday at the Eastgate office, so you can actually come and participate in that pool program. And to those of you that aren't around the Cincinnati area, look up where your local recruiting station is. And I know for a fact that they will let you, and ask them what days are their PT, what times are these. And I know they will for sure let you participate in that. And you can at least get a taste of what it is. And if it scares you, like if it's too hard or you feel like it's too challenging, then maybe the Marine Corps is not for you. But if you like it and you want more, then the Marine Corps is probably for you. That's probably that. I would say that's one of the straightforward advice I would give.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Sergeant Williams. Well, Sergeant Williams, thank you so much. I'm going to stop our recording. For those of you that watch the recording, I appreciate it. Again, if you have questions for Sergeant Williams further or another Marine recruiter, you can get a hold of me.
Yes, I will. So the best way to reach me is my phone number is 937-503-9507. And I get a lot of people calling me. So feel free to text me on that too to say, hey, I saw your video and I'm interested in more information. And you can do that for like, even if you're not in the Cincinnati area, you can do that and I can get you in touch with a recruiter in your area. So it's fine. Anyone can reach me.